Ever wished your equipment just ran, perfectly? Like always.
Yeah.
No breakdowns, no surprises, just predictable maintenance
Right.
costs. Sounds like a dream, right?
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's like a system to get you closer to that?
Okay.
Today, we're diving deep into maintenance metrics,
All right.
the secret weapon for, keeping things running smoothly. And we're going to focus on this really interesting concept called the balanced scorecard.
Okay. So the balanced scorecard.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating about it is it takes a much broader view of maintenance than just like fixing things when they break.
Right.
It recognizes that how you handle maintenance.
Right.
It impacts the whole organization, really.
Exactly. And luckily for us, we've got this handbook,
Mm.
all dedicated to maintenance metrics,
Yeah.
full of insights on this balanced scorecard. So what's the big deal with this scorecard? Is it just like a fancy spreadsheet for managers?
Oh, no, not at all. It's really about kind of shifting your perspective a little bit. Instead of just looking at, the financial numbers, like how much is this costing me, the balanced scorecard, it breaks down maintenance performance into four key areas.
Okay.
It's kind of like you're looking at the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but through four different lenses.
Okay.
So first, you've got the financial perspective, right? Because obviously money matters. But then you have the customer perspective. So it's not just about the money. It's also about what do the people who rely on this equipment think?
Yeah.
How satisfied are they?
Right.
And then from there, you've got the internal processes perspective, which really gets into the nitty-gritty of how efficiently your maintenance operations are running.
Mm.
Are you doing things well?
Right.
And then finally, there's the learning and growth perspective, which is all about, how your maintenance team is building their expertise,
Okay.
building knowledge. How are they getting better at what they do?
I see. So you're not just fixing things, you're looking at how maintenance impacts the entire company, the entire organization.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a much more holistic view.
So how does this actually play out, like in the real world?
So imagine you're a maintenance manager, right?
Okay.
You're in charge of keeping everything running.
Yeah.
The balanced scorecard can really help you make sure that your goals, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, are aligned with what the company as a whole is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But this isn't just for managers. This is something that's relevant for everyone.
Okay.
From the technicians who are actually doing the work, on the floor, all the way up to the CEO who's in the boardroom making the big decision.
It's about getting everyone on the same page, working toward the same goal.
Exactly.
I like it. So let's dive a little deeper into each of these perspectives.
Okay.
First up, the financial perspective.
All right.
I'm guessing this one's all about saving money, right?
Well, it's definitely about cost, but it's more nuanced than that. It's not just about being cheap. It's about finding that sweet spot
Okay.
where you're maximizing how much your equipment is actually running,
Yeah.
that uptime,
Right.
while also keeping those maintenance costs in check.
So you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You want to be cost effective.
Right.
It's about getting the most bang for your buck.
So what kind of specific indicators, like what are we actually looking at under this financial perspective?
So it's about looking beyond just downtime. The handbook talks about this concept of comprehensive maintenance cost.
Okay.
And it's really about understanding all the expenses,
Yeah.
that are related to maintenance. And then thinking about how those relate to the actual value of the equipment that you're trying to maintain.
Give me an example.
Sure. So let's say you've got this really critical piece of machinery
Okay.
in your plant,
Right.
right? You'd want to track, obviously, the costs, the obvious costs, like repairs when something breaks down. But you'd also want to think about things like, how much is your spare parts inventory costing you?
Right.
How many labor hours are going into this?
Yeah.
Even things like, how much energy are you using while the equipment's down?
Oh, wow.
You're not producing anything.
Yeah.
And then you take all those maintenance costs and you look at them in relation to how much it would cost to actually just replace that piece of equipment.
So you can see if you're spending a fortune to keep like an old clunker running when it might be better to just invest in something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
You also want to look at things like how much of your downtime is planned versus unplanned.
Ah.
How many emergency orders are you having to rush? And how effective are your maintenance strategies overall?
Yeah.
Are you focusing on preventing these breakdowns?
Right.
Or are you just reacting to them as they happen?
So you're saying, like, are you being proactive or reactive in your maintenance?
Exactly.
Okay, that's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But it definitely like paints a much clearer picture of the financial impact of your maintenance operation.
Yeah.
But we all know there's more to the story than just dollars and cents, right?
Absolutely.
What about the people who rely on this equipment, like your customers?
Right. And that's where that customer perspective comes in. It's not just about keeping the production line moving internally. It's about understanding how well you're serving the people who are depending on you.
Okay, so walk me through this customer perspective a little bit. What are we looking at here?
So we're really trying to understand how our maintenance efforts, are they actually impacting the customer's experience?
Right.
Are they building trust
Hmm.
or are they eroding trust?
Okay.
For example, are there frequent breakdowns that are disrupting production,
Yeah, yeah.
leading to delays? Because if so, that's going to make your customers unhappy.
Right.
Are there concerns about, the safety
Right.
of the equipment
Mm-hmm.
or even the safety of the maintenance processes themselves?
Mm-hmm.
You also want to look at how quickly are you responding
Okay.
to issues when they come up,
Yeah.
and how well are you communicating
Right.
your maintenance policies to your customers so they understand what to expect.
So it's not enough to just fix the problem. You have to fix it in a way that doesn't leave the customer feeling frustrated or unsure about, the quality of what you're providing.
You want them to feel confident
Exactly.
that you have it handled
Right.
and that, they're in good hands.
So give me an example of like how you would actually measure that.
Sure. One thing you could track is how much agreement is there between your production team,
Yeah.
the people who are making the stuff,
Okay.
and your maintenance team.
Right.
Are they on the same page,
Right.
or are there constant conflicts and
Because
misunderstandings?
that's going to trickle down to the customer eventually. Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. What are some other examples of these customer perspective metrics?
Um, let's see. You could also look at things like how many of your work orders are actually being completed as planned?
Okay.
Are you consistently meeting your commitments?
Right.
Or are there a lot of delays? Are you scrambling at the last minute?
Yeah.
And another one is how often are you seeing the same problems pop up again and again?
Okay.
Are those Band-Aid solutions really working?
You're not fixing the root cause.
Exactly.
Right.
You got to get to the root of the problem.
Okay, so we've got the financial side, we've got the customer side. What about the actual work,
Right.
like keeping everything running smoothly?
Hey.
What about the maintenance work itself?
So that's where this internal processes perspective comes in.
Okay.
It's about, kind of looking under the hood of your maintenance operation,
Yeah.
seeing like how efficiently, how effectively is everything actually running.
So let's pop that hood. What are we trying to optimize here?
So think of it this way, right? You want all the gears to be turning smoothly.
Okay.
It's about optimizing the way that work flows.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment you get a request, something needs to be fixed all the way through to, buttoning it all up at the end.
Gotcha. So what are some of the things, like the key things that we would want to measure here?
So one of the big ones is the reliability of your equipment.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Are you being proactive?
Mm.
Are you doing things to prevent those failures from happening in the first place? Like, are you doing your preventative maintenance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are you constantly in this mode of putting out fires?
Right.
Because that's not a good place to be.
No, not at all.
Another thing is, how well are you managing, like, your maintenance warehouse?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have the right parts on hand?
Right.
When you need them to minimize that downtime.
Oh, I feel that. Like keeping track of parts, that's a constant struggle.
Oh, it really is. It's
Yeah.
like, where'd that wrench go? I just had it.
Right, exactly.
And then, of course, there's the responsiveness.
Oh.
How quickly can your team, your maintenance team,
Mm-hmm.
respond when something goes wrong?
Yeah.
What are your emergency response times like?
Right.
How quickly can you get somebody on site?
Right, to take a look.
Exactly.
And
Especially if it's something critical.
So it sounds like this perspective is really about like fine-tuning the maintenance machine itself.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's like running as smoothly as possible.
I got it.
Okay.
And another thing you'd want to look at through this lens is the effectiveness of your safety procedures.
Right.
Is everyone following them? Are you creating a safe environment for your team?
Safety first.
Absolutely. Always, always, always. And here's maybe a sneaky one that the handbook talks about, and I thought it was really interesting. Tracking overtime.
Really?
Okay.
Mm.
So if you're constantly paying your people overtime, That could be a sign that maybe things aren't as balanced as they could be.
Right.
Maybe there are some inefficiencies in the way you're doing things.
So you're saying like seeing a pattern in those extra hours can maybe reveal something deeper?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like a red flag.
Okay.
So look out for it.
Interesting. What are some other like insightful metrics, under that umbrella of internal processes?
Um, well, you definitely want to measure how effective your preventative maintenance program actually is, right?
Okay.
Is it doing what it's supposed to do?
Right.
Is it actually reducing downtime?
Right.
Is it making your equipment last longer?
Yeah.
And here's a big one. Don't underestimate the power of your people.
Right.
Like, listen to your team. Tracking employee suggestions for improvement, that can be pure gold.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes the people who are closest to the work, they have the best ideas.
Right, because they're seeing it every single day.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've covered finances, we've covered customers, we've covered, the inner workings of the maintenance department itself. What else is there?
So we've got the financial lens. We've got the customer lens. We've got that internal processes lens. Now we come to, I think, an often overlooked but incredibly important perspective, which is the learning and growth perspective.
Okay, and why is this one so important? Like, what's the big idea here?
Well, this perspective recognizes that ultimately your people are your most valuable asset.
Okay.
Their knowledge, their skills, that's what really drives how effective your maintenance is.
So you're saying, like, it's about building a team of, like, maintenance masterminds.
Exactly. You want people who are constantly learning,
Okay.
growing,
Right.
getting better at what they do.
So what kind of metrics would you use to track that? Like, how do you measure if your team is, leveling up their skills?
Well, one thing you could look at is how many people are actually, signing up for training,
Okay.
submitting those applications. Are you encouraging that culture of continuous learning?
Right. So it's not just about offering training. It's about creating that environment where people are like, yeah, I want to learn. I want to improve.
Exactly.
What else?
You can also look at, how well are you sharing knowledge internally?
Okay.
Are your more experienced technicians mentoring the newer folks?
Right.
Are you documenting lessons learned from, past breakdowns, repairs, so that you don't make the same mistakes again?
Yeah.
And are you using technology
Okay.
to capture all this information?
Right. Right.
And to analyze it?
You're talking about like a CMMS system.
Exactly, a CMMS. It's like a central hub
Right.
for all your maintenance information.
Right.
It helps you track everything.
So speaking of data deep dives, right? Because we love those.
Yes.
What kind of data are we actually talking about here?
So with a CMMS, it's like having this digital brain
Mm-hmm.
that's helping you manage all your maintenance activities.
Yeah.
So you can track things like how often are breakdowns happening? What kind of breakdowns are they? How long does it typically take to repair them? How much are those spare parts costing you?
Right. Right.
And you can start to see, like, are maintenance strategies actually working?
Yeah.
Like, is this stuff actually making a difference?
Okay.
And then you can use that information to make changes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
To be more efficient, to reduce that downtime, to make your equipment last even longer.
All right. So let's get practical. I'm ready to see this balanced scorecard like in action. Like how does it actually play out in a real company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you've got this manufacturing plant,
Okay.
right? And they're constantly battling these like emergency breakdowns.
Right.
Unplanned downtime is just killing them.
Okay.
It's messing up their production. Their customers are unhappy. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they decide, you know what? We're going to try this balanced scorecard thing.
Okay.
See if it can help us get a handle on this.
So they're starting from a very reactive place, right?
Very reactive. They're just fighting fires all day long.
So how does the balanced scorecard help them get to that like more proactive place? Where they can kind of anticipate these things and prevent them from happening.
So the first thing they do, right, is they put on their financial glasses.
Okay.
That financial perspective we were talking about. They start by looking at, they calculate that ratio of their total maintenance costs
Right.
to the replacement value of their equipment.
Yeah.
Like, how much is this stuff actually worth?
Right, right.
And guess what they realize?
What?
They're spending a ton of money
Okay.
trying to keep this, like, old, unreliable equipment running.
Ouch. So it's like throwing good money after bad.
It is. It is. And seeing those numbers, like black and white,
Yeah.
it's a real wake-up call.
Right, because sometimes you don't really know until you actually see it.
Exactly. So then they look at, remember we were talking about, like, planned versus unplanned downtime.
Yeah, yeah.
They take a look at that data, and surprise, surprise,
Yeah.
their unplanned downtime is way, way higher than their planned downtime.
Okay.
which tells them, okay, we are definitely stuck in this reactive cycle.
Right. So they're starting to see the real cost of those breakdowns, not just the dollars and cents, but like the lost time, the unhappy customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? That impacts the bottom line too.
Right, right, for sure. So where do they go from there?
Well, they decide to put on those internal processes glasses
Okay.
and take a hard look at um, their preventative maintenance program.
Okay.
And you know they find
What?
it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. They're not actually doing the tasks consistently.
Okay.
And even when they are doing them, it's not actually preventing those breakdowns from happening.
So it's like they're just going through the motions,
Mhm.
checking the box, but not really solving the problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And then they dig even deeper.
Okay.
They look at the data from remember that digital maintenance hub we were talking about, the CMMS?
Yeah, the CMMS.
They realize their spare parts situation is a mess.
Oh, no, not the spare parts.
Oh, yeah. They're constantly running out of critical parts.
Yeah.
Which means delays, expensive rush orders.
Right, right.
It's a whole thing.
So they're not just trying to, fix the problems as they come up. They're trying to figure out, like, why are these things breaking in the first place?
Exactly. They're getting to the root cause. They want to understand what's really going on.
Which is a much smarter way to approach it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they decide, okay, we got to work smarter, not harder.
Right.
We've got to be more strategic about this.
Right.
So they take that preventative maintenance program. They
Okay.
give it a complete overhaul.
Okay.
They use the data from their CMMS to pinpoint, like, what are their most critical assets?
Uh-huh.
What are the things that if they go down, it's a huge problem?
Right.
And then they create this, like, laser-focused preventative maintenance schedule.
So no more, like, generic checklists?
No, no, no. This is targeted. This is strategic.
They're using the data.
They're using the data to make better decisions.
I like it. What about the spare parts chaos? How do they get that under control?
So for the spare parts, they're done with the guessing games,
Okay.
right? They use data analysis to figure out, okay, what's the optimal stock level
Right.
for each of these critical parts?
Right.
And then, here's the kicker. They set up a system that automatically reorders those parts
Ooh.
when they get below a certain level.
That's smart.
Right.
That is smart maintenance.
So no more scrambling at the last minute.
They're using the data to make sure they have what they need when they need it without, like, overstocking.
Exactly. But here's the best part, right? They don't forget about the humans.
Right.
Remember that learning and growth perspective.
Yeah.
They realize they need to invest in their people too. So they do a bunch of training for their technicians.
Okay.
They focus on things like, those proactive techniques, that root cause analysis.
Right.
They teach them how to use data to make better decisions.
They're giving their team, like, the tools and the knowledge to really be those maintenance heroes.
That's it. That's it. And you know what? It pays off. After they make all these changes, their unplanned downtime drops dramatically.
Wow.
Their financial performance improves.
Of course.
The customers are happier. It's like a win-win-win.
That is amazing. It's, like, really impressive what you can achieve when you have a framework,
Right.
like this balanced scorecard to guide you.
Yeah, it gives you that structure.
But I'm guessing this isn't like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
No, not at all.
You can't just, like, relax and assume everything's going to be perfect forever now.
Yeah. This isn't a magic bullet, right? This is an ongoing process. It's about always evaluating, adapting, and trying to improve.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It's about constantly learning and evolving,
Yeah.
which I think is something we should all, try to do in our work and in our lives.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up here, what does this all mean for our listeners? Like, why should they care about this balanced scorecard?
Well, I think it's a really powerful tool,
Mhm.
for anyone who's involved in maintaining equipment, assets, whatever it is.
Mm.
It helps you zoom out, see the bigger picture,
Yeah.
understand how maintenance really impacts the entire organization.
It's like having that roadmap
Yeah.
to maintenance success. And we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From those 4 perspectives, the financial, the customer, the internal processes, that learning and growth, to real examples of how this can actually work.
Yeah, it's not just about the numbers themselves, it's about what they represent.
Right, exactly. It's about the story behind the numbers.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Hopefully, our listeners are walking away with a new perspective on maintenance and how impactful it can really be.
And we'd love to hear from you. How do you use data in your work? What are some of your biggest maintenance challenges? Let's keep this conversation going in the comments below.